Gentlemen, we got another Monday. That means another Premier League meeting. This time, clubs voting unanimously even to begin training in small groups. That'll start on Tuesday. A statement calling it a first step towards restarting, though no start date for actual Premier League fixtures has been announced. Jules, maybe not the ultimate news fans were hoping for, but still seems significant.
Completely. Very true. Sebi, significant in the sense that finally training will be starting again tomorrow in small groups. So not the full squad together at the same time on the same pitch, but groups of 4 or 5 players together with social distancing, but you can still pass the ball to each other, for example, which was not the case before, which was not allowed before. No contact, obviously, even if you do a 2v2, for example, you can't go into contact. And again, you need to respect social distancing. But it's a very important first step or next step if you want towards resuming football in England with the Premier League. You're right, there's been no date discussed, but that was not really the aim of today's meeting. Today was about returning to training first. Of course, they discussed maybe if mid-June is still possible or realistic to go back, and I think that's the idea, and it's very much the idea after today. But it was very important that everybody agreed that tomorrow training in small groups could go again.
Don, will folks in England be happy to see this progress or perhaps frustrated compared to what they saw this weekend in the Bundesliga?
No, I think everyone in the UK took the Bundesliga with tremendous joy. I think it was great to have football back on our screens. We watched competitive football. The standard was very, very good considering the players haven't trained and played competitive matches for 10 weeks. So I think the Premier League, obviously, we're watching on with keen eyes. And I think it's great news they've had the meeting today, and we're only at phase 1, which is absolutely fine. And Jules said there about the protocols that's going to be in place. So that's good. Hopefully that goes all well and we can move on to phase 2 next week. But I think the players and I think everyone in general in the UK are so glad that there's competitive football back.
Craig, Mr. Positivity, good news, huh?
Yeah, and I think the Bundesliga was a little bit of a blueprint for people to sit back and watch. And it seems, as we speak now, that everything went pretty well in Germany. Look, if they can get this week out the way with no close contact training in small groups, ramp up the testing, who knows where we'll be next week? Maybe be able to ramp that up a little bit more, get larger group training. And there has been a tentative date or talked about around about the weekend of the 12th or the 13th of June. Now, that's coming quite quickly. Now, Steve Bruce, the Newcastle manager, he was talking about the end of June, which I think is too far away, but maybe we could split the difference somewhere. And at least this is a start for the players. But as I say, it will come down to how many tests can they produce, how often can they do it, and is anybody going to be coming down with this virus? If that happens, that could really mean it's 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But at least we have something to hold on to in England at the moment.
Jules, we have tentative start dates in Italy. We have tentative start dates in Spain. Why don't we have one in the Premier League yet? So what is the holdup?
Well, there's a few things in there. The first one, I think the biggest issue has always been the protocol, the medical protocol for the players, for everyone who will be involved in those matches behind closed doors, whoever they are. How you test them, when you test them, when they arrive at the stadium, how they arrive at the stadium. All of that is being put in place right now, so it's not yet black and white, and you can't show it to the players, to the managers, to the clubs for everyone to agree. So I believe that's one of the next steps to come. There's also club doctors who are still very concerned about what can happen if a player tests positive. Does he have to quarantine on his own? Do you quarantine the whole squad, the whole club, or people, medical staff, technical staff, and players? So again, that's up for discussion right now. Also, the responsibility if something happens to a player or a member of staff who gets the virus, who gets really ill, for example, God forbid, but that's a possibility. Who is responsible? Is it the club's doctor? Is it the Premier League? Who is that? So there was a call today with the Premier League medical advisor, Mark Gillett, with some of the reporters where he talked about that and saying that we're all discussing it at the moment. It's right that there's concern, but again, I think they will sort out down the line. I think the most important was first to go back to training, and you go one by one, step by step, really, towards playing June the 12th, June the 19th, maybe the week after, but you can't rush anything, and especially for the safety and health of players and everybody else involved.
Sebi, we've never seen anything like this before. I mean, it's unquantifiable. We've had pandemics in our lifetime when we've been playing and after that, but everything's just carry on, pretty much is normal. But this is really unquantifiable what's having to happen here. It is new to everyone. And some of the risks are, and I know this is not a one-size-fits-all virus, but generally the players being super fit, and with great immune systems in the main, if they were unfortunately to contract this virus, probably 99.999 of the players are going to be fine, maybe even 100%. But what you got to factor in are other people that working at these football clubs that are going to have to be present for all this that happens. Now, a lot of these staff, men and women, are of an age group and a category that are going to be more affected and have been more affected with this virus. So it's not just about how we get the players back training, but it's how we make sure all the other staff at the clubs and the training grounds and surrounding these players, they're not put at risk, because a lot of these people are in that high-risk category, being a little bit older.
Don, what about the players in the Premier League that have expressed concerns? You think they saw what happened this past weekend in the Bundesliga and those concerns be put to rest?
I think so. Not 100%. There'll always be a case where someone doesn't want to play if they're scared for their health, for their family, which is inevitable, really. And it's something that you've just got to hold your hands up and say, look, it's one of these where every individual case you have to treat it as that. I think the majority, the texts I was getting from players and coaches still in the game were watching the Bundesliga as I was on Saturday and Sunday, and they were loving the football being back. I think it's only a matter of time before the Premier League comes back. I think, in my opinion, it won't be June the 12th. I think maybe that's a tad ambitious, but why not aim for that? And if everything goes well, maybe it's the 12th, but I would probably be thinking it would probably be the 19th, the week later. But as I said, the texts I was getting from players and coaches still in the game, they were really loving life that the Bundesliga was on at the weekend. And I think it'll give the players appetite, the players that were watching, especially the fans. They're just desperate for any sort of football. But the players in the Premier League that would have been watching on, I would have thought their appetite to come back will be even stronger and even greater.
Well, will it be a surprise to know I wasn't getting any texts and messages from any players in the Premier League, Don? Obviously.
Well, me and Julien was. I mean, me and Julien were, getting loads of texts here, there, and everywhere. So,
well, I try not to fraternize.
From Frank, from your good buddy Frank.
I try not to fraternize with these egotistical players these days. But the interesting thing is, and you and I talked about this, Don, last week. We're kind of old school. Asked the question, would you go back and play? The answer from you and I was a categoric yes. And I think that will be in the course, mainly what the decision will be for most players. But we can't, and I don't think anybody who decides, if there are any, that they don't want to take that risk, they cannot be castigated, because everyone is different. Now, we see it as, yeah, we'll go, we'll play, put our name down. But everyone has a different fear. It's like getting on a plane. Some people get on a plane, it's not even, don't even give it a thought. Others get on a flight, have to strap themselves in because they're horrified, they're petrified. And so if there are any players out there, big name players, that don't want to play, I think it's going to be difficult to say, well, they're only thinking about themselves, because in that scenario, you do have to think about yourself and your family and your extended family. And that can only be a personal decision, not a club decision.
But I think they have to be convinced, though, Craig, didn't I think the players have to be convinced. Reading between the lines what was happening in the Bundesliga in Germany at the weekend, the players were obviously at a hotel the night before the game, and there wasn't any other people in that hotel. It was just the member of staff. So they were free to sort of roam in and around the hotel and do their own thing, as long as obviously they didn't leave the hotel. And then on the way to the game, they went in their own cars. They didn't get showered together. They got back in their cars. So there's a protocol in place where you could see it working. It is going to be different. It is going to take some getting used to. I was watching the games at the weekend, like you guys, and I found it bizarre as I was watching the substitutes sitting behind the dugout in the stand with masks on. Then I was watching Haaland score his first goal, and he's dancing in the corner, not celebrating. Yet there's players grappling at corners and free kicks. So it is just going to be a little bit brand new, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be strange on the eye for everyone watching. But as I said, we've got football back, and I bet everyone, I think 99% of, people that love football are so glad that it's back.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.